The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Great crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned to address them. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you, wishing to construct a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there is enough for its completion? Otherwise, after laying the foundation and finding himself unable to finish the work, the onlookers should laugh at him and say, "This one began to build, but did not have the resources to finish." Or what king, marching into battle, would not first sit down and decide whether with 10,000 troops he can successfully oppose another king advancing upon him with 20,000 troops? But if not, while he is still far away, he will send a delegation to ask for peace terms. In the same way, any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. The Gospel of the Lord. When we were kids, we used to always hear from our parents. Usually, at times we were the most upset and most confused. And my guess is that there are some young people here who might be hearing it from their parents even now. You heard this: just do what you're told. You'll understand someday. Now go, get out of here, go play. Anybody ever heard that before? Hey, you don't understand now, you don't have to understand, just do what you're told, go on, beat it, get out of here. You'll understand someday. And while I admit that it did not sit very well with me then, I can tell you that after 40 years since then, it has become much clearer to me. Things do make more sense now that I'm a little bit older and I can look back as a parent and go, maybe my mom knew what she was talking about after all. Didn't go well back then, makes a lot more sense now. I thought for sure that my mom didn't let me have my way because she didn't love me. But the truth is, she didn't let me have my way because she did love me. And because of her great love for me, she set boundaries, restrictions for my development and my growth. She said no out of love. And parents today need to be able to say, no, I'm sorry. I love you too much. You don't get what you want. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. Now go on, beat it. The Book of Wisdom today asks us, how can we know God's counsel? Or who can conceive what the Lord intends? You see, it's the same with my mom as it is with God. So often, God does not give us what we want because God has other plans in store for us. Plans that will cause us to prosper, to grow, through difficulty, yes, but through growth nonetheless. How often, like my mother's son, I find myself now as an adult, angry and confused by what I do not know or what I cannot control. It seems maybe with God, I haven't grown up all that much. Maybe in 40 years, I'll understand a little better. If I didn't get the job that I wanted, if I didn't get the promotion that I thought was mine, The truth is, even in my journey to being a deacon, I was removed from the program, denied the program in Stockton 15 years ago, moved to Salinas and was told in Monterey, no, you're just not a deacon. And it created a great deal of pain, a great deal of hardship, but the call in my heart just wouldn't go away. And so I came back to Stockton and I went to see Sister Wanda at the cathedral, at the chancery, and I said, Sister Wanda, this isn't going away. And it was only on that third time that it actually all made perfect sense. We struggle at times with understanding or appreciating that God is ultimately the Lord of our life. We want what we want when we want it. We're like children who just want what we want and have little patience for what God's plan is unveiling for us. That promotion I talked about, that struggle to make ends meet, that struggle that we never seem to have enough time to get the jobs done that we want to get done. I'm too short, too bald, too chubby, too handsome. There are just times when I look at my life and I think God must have made a mistake somewhere along the way. Certainly, He's not getting it because I'm not getting what I want. It seems that there is no end to the list of things that if I were in charge would certainly be different. My guess is you're not that much different than I am. You just wait and see, God. When I grow up, right, we're going to let God know just what we think. I want to know it all. I want to understand it all. I want to control it all. And I just want what I want right now. And hurry up, God, because I'm getting impatient. I don't think I'm alone in this, I'm afraid. Too often we try to control what is not ours to control. We get angry, we get frustrated, we're scared, we're confused. The Book of Wisdom has much to say to us today. There is only one way to have peace in this life, and that quite simply is let go of the wheel and let God be the Lord of our life. It is not easy to do, but it is the thing that we must do if we're going to have peace in our life. It was easy to understand when we were a child. Mom and dad got the last word, but as adults, we often forget the most important lesson that we had learned time and time again as a child. We're not in charge. We got to come to terms with that. We are not God. God is number one. We are number two. Difficulties, struggles, hardships, consternation, anxiety, and fear happen when we get those backwards. When we try with limited understanding, with limited knowledge, with limited power to be in control of all things. And God says, you gotta put it back. That's why we're here at Mass, reminding ourselves. At the very beginning of Mass, we start with recognition of our own sinfulness, of our own weakness, of our own fault. We humbly recognize that God is God and we haven't let God be God. And so we say, as we beat our breast, it is my fault, mea culpa. I am the one who has caused these problems. And we must let God have the wheel. Our parents loved us and they wanted what's best for us. We may not see it, but that's just the way it is. And so my brothers and sisters, we come to terms with that so we can go out and play. It changes our life. It changes our attitude. When we let God be God and we follow God's love, and we follow God's call for our life, then we have peace. The Catechism of the Catholic Church in paragraph 314 says this: the ways of God's providence are often unknown to us. Only at the end, when our partial knowledge ceases, when we see God face to face, will we fully know the ways by which God has guided his creation. And so even as adults, we are not in charge. God loves us very much, and he wants the best for us. We have to believe that. And many of us need to stop kicking rocks and shaking our fist, and we need to just go out and play. Life is short. There's no time for grinding our teeth, being bitter, being angry, being upset with our neighbor, with our family, with our kids, with our church, with our government, with its leaders. It never, ever stops, and it only creates anxiety and anger in Jesus' disciple. Jesus tells those who are following him today, we heard, any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. And our number one most coveted possession is our will. It's our will for our life. It's how I think that things should go. And he says, you've got to let it go. The possession most difficult for us is our own desire for how we think things should go. And I will tell you, I have a really hard time letting go of what I want, of what I think is best, or the way I want things done. And the more I demand of my own will, the more upset I get, because I'm not getting what I want. And I end up being like a child throwing a tantrum. And there are some adults throwing tantrums these days, stomping our feet and kicking rocks and being angry, and ultimately it robs us of our joy. It keeps me from being his disciple of love, of joy, and of peace in our world. Notice this, Jesus isn't saying that he won't let us be his disciple. He isn't saying he will not let us follow him. He says you cannot follow me. It's impossible for you to have your own will and follow him. He said it just won't happen. If we do not renounce all of our possessions, he says, you're not willing to let go, you can't follow me. And many times throughout my life, God has called me to his service. He says, are you coming or not? If we are willing to ride along with the Lord, we must recognize that we are not behind the wheel. I just drove with my son, Mark. He's 16 now, and he's got his learner's permit. That's a scary thing. He gets to drive the car. I'm in the passenger seat. I don't have a wheel. I don't even have brakes. I have no control over what's going on. That's a scary place to be. As he becomes more and more experienced, I can more easily relax, drink my coffee, and enjoy the view. We must recognize in our life, we're in the passenger seat. We are not behind the wheel. And sometimes we might even find ourselves in the back seat. Not in the back of the truck, that's illegal these days, but you get the idea. Hey, listen, we're not in control, and we have to come to terms with that. And when we do come to terms with that, we might even find ourselves looking out the window and enjoying the beautiful view that God has provided. And that's why I love, honestly, sitting in the passenger seat. My wife hates to drive. But every once in a while, she'll drive, and I'll get to just see the rest of the world, because you don't see it when you're driving. And the world is a beautiful place. And if we would just let God drive the car, we would experience such beauty all around us, all the time. We might even have an uplift in our attitude. We might even spend more time with God in prayer and thanksgiving, and we might even reach out to family and friends who we maybe have been away from for too long. Saint Cyprian of Carthage said, "For since God possesses all things, those who possess God will lack nothing if they do not lack God himself." And so for now, we should pray. We should hold on to God, let God be in charge. We should just do what we're told and follow his will, and then someday we'll understand when we grow up. So we can go out and play.